Okay, ready to go.
I had looked up stuff for Ruth.
Okay, you can be Ruth.
Sweet.
We need a Sid Noble, and then we can choose either between Miles Haddock, Gus Teller, or Bill Purcell.
I guess I can be Sid.
Nice. Good job. And then Jordan, who do you want to be?
I'll um I'll be Miles.
Miles.
Yeah, just let me find him and what he has to say. So
Miles Haddock, CFO. All right, so go ahead and take a couple minutes and review each of your characters. And I will be Gilbert. Gilberto.
Okay.
You ready, Secretary Emily?
Yeah.
Okay.
I get to play the bad guy, huh?
What bad guy? No bad guy.
Sid on Toy Story. Maybe it's the name, right?
Yeah, I know, right? Okay, well, Jordan, are you ready?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I
Okay,
think.
so I am Gilbert. I'd like to welcome you to the Top 10K committee meeting. As you know, Sam Burde has asked me to lead this meeting, this committee. Although I have worked very hard on the pay plan, I realize that no plan will be successful without support from employees. I want to get all of your input so we can create a pay plan that will be best for everybody. Cool. All right, let's brainstorm some ideas for a better pay plan. I will be the scribe since we don't have a Gus Tyler here. So let's come up with some ideas on what we can do to create an effective pay plan. Who would like to begin?
I'll go.
Let's start with that.
Go. Okay. Ruth works in the as a chemical mixer on the packaging team, and she likes her job. The people on with her feel like they get to know the customers and what the customers like and the customers need, and they get to feel confidence in their product because they know that they made it, and if the customer likes it, then that's great. They take pride in their work. She doesn't like how the current pay is, that the whole company is compensated because they've come in on weekends and have worked really, really hard and haven't been. So I think that if they make a compensation plan for company-wide, that they should base it on each individual different category or different part of the company. So the packaging team who makes it and packages it and gets it out on time in a shorter amount of time, what part they'd be responsible for, either a percentage that they would be compensated for just their part rather than the company as a whole. So that I think that would give them more motivation to see, okay, we did this, this is how much we're getting paid for it, as opposed to, well, we did this, but everybody's going to get paid for it. Kind of like when you write a doohickey paper and everybody does their part except one person, but they still get the same grade as everybody else. It's not really fair, but we can tweak it and make differences and figure it out and get it all done together, and everybody can get what they deserve rather than what their neighbor did.
Okay,
So
you're for pay based on compensation then, and by department, not as a company whole, correct?
divide it up. Make
Okay,
it
divide it up.
make it based on what how your performance.
Okay, based on performance. We do it based on, in your opinion, would you want it based on quality or quantity?
I think that we should do both.
Okay.
If the customer's not happy based on something that has happened to a product, then we should know about it and we should be penalized for it. But if we have sent out record numbers of things in a record time, then we should be paid for that as well.
So,
But then you'd have to make sure that anything that you're not just trying to get it sent out to get that performance, that number, because then your quality could not be as good because you were in a rush to get the order out. So you'd have to do it on both.
So finding a happy medium would be good for both quality and quantity, I guess, because if you focus on just one or the other will be will be affected. I think so. That's what happened with working in the food business for me. Sorry, my character Gilbert has food background, and I noticed that we could either, take our time, a little bit more time to focus on quality, or we could just rush through it and it would just be a mess, but it got done. I mean, all-you-can-eat pizza buffet, that's kind of, you could either choose to be slow and do really well in quality, or be really fast and it wouldn't look as good, or it wouldn't necessarily, I guess it would taste fine, but it wouldn't taste as good as it could have been. So I guess just finding that balance would be really important in quality and quantity. Great, that was a great idea. Any other ideas, Ruth, that you may have?
Well, part of the issue I have being said here, I kind of agree with him in the fact that when you have a scientific background, you have a scientific degree, and you expect, and I know this is going into the entitlement thing, but you really do expect to have a little higher pay than those around you because of your educational background and because of the importance behind it. And so I can see his point of view in the fact that, okay, so how do we make that equal to everybody and yet still recruit the best of the best in the market?
Right.
I don't know that I have a full suggestion for that, but I think if you did a base pay for everybody and then the compensation on top of that for the quality, and then that way you can set the base pay per group and then give it a bonus, if you will, for the rest.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think that everyone should have a base pay for sure. And my husband's an electrical engineer and has 2 master's degrees, but he had to start out with kind of everyone else who just had a bachelor's degree. And so it's been interesting to see how he has moved up, but it was still frustrating in the beginning to get that same pay. But definitely everybody's base pay will be different on what their educational background is and what they can bring to the company, for sure.
So you guys think that the scientific, I guess the science R&D department should have compensation based on performance? And how could you base compensation on performance in that kind of department?
In the scientific department, you can base it on what ideas they come up with. You really can. If they contribute to the company as far as new development, then they qualify for the compensation. If they are only coming up with one idea every year, that's not going to cut it. You know, they need to have at least 1, 2, 3 ideas every 2, 3 months, every month, every week. I'm not sure that you could.
Yeah, that's the problem. Do they have control over the outcomes of their experiments and their research?
They don't have they may not have control over the outcome, but they do have control over what kind of experiments and things that they are doing. You know, they have the ideas in their heads of, okay, well, we know that this does this. You know, you're coming up with those different chemical-based things, or you're coming up with a new way to produce the product or whatever based on chemistry or new technology mixed with the chemistry. So I mean, there is a way of doing it. You just have to say, okay.
That's my only thing is that there are only certain, like, I guess, experiments that you can do. So, like, let's say that they are approaching their deadline to come up with a new way of doing something. Are they going to work harder at those experiments? That's what's hard for me to grasp. If you can base scientific, you know, like, if it's going to happen based on their experiments, it's going to happen. They can't work harder to make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, they can do their job to the best of their ability and to the best of what they're given. But in the end, I mean, I can't really work harder at an experiment to get a result. That way, or I can work less hard at an experiment. Does that make sense? Like, it's really hard.
Yeah.
It's harder to do compensation in that department than it is in the packaging department, where I can work faster. I can be safer. I can be, you know, follow procedures more to the T. That way, timing is more or better, or stuff like that. So I
think that
department or something, maybe the compensation.
I also think that that kind of goes with, you don't necessarily have to have a timeline. You can just say, okay, this is your base pay, and if you do this or come up with a new invention or a new patent, my husband, every time, he has 3 patents, and he gets awards every time that he gets one of those, monetary rewards, and so that's an extra. It's an added, you know, is just added onto his base pay. In addition, when they make new stuff, they have new clients wanting to try out their product. And so those new clients will come in and say, you know what, we came because we wanted to try out this new invention that your science department made, and so we'll order 5,000 of them. So in that case, they could get a portion of the quantity because it was their invention that had those people come and order those parts.
Okay. So obviously their base pay will be higher than the factory worker, right? R&D. I mean,
Yes.
or else
For sure.
they'll leave.
For sure.
The same pay as factory workers or anything. So we've agreed that each department will have a base pay. Let's split it up into factory and R&D. What percentages of base and extra compensation, I guess you could say, or bonuses, would it be? Should it be like they talked about in the proposed plan, 75-25? Would it be 80-20 or 90-10? You guys think?
I don't know. That's where it gets iffy. I have to go to business school for that. So Bryce, you tell me.
Well, obviously, the first number is going to be 100% what they make. But the second number, the compensation, is going to be a percentage of what they make on top of their good performance or their. So should they get percent of the 80 that they make, or 25 more percent? I just feel like that there should be a balance. I mean, if you make the base pay too low, then R&D is going to leave. They're going to go to other companies. If you make it too high, then it won't motivate them because what's an extra 5%? Like, what's that really going to be motivate me for stressing out in my job or like working harder or whatever? So I guess just finding the balance of the percentages would be, I guess, the best. Cool. We're coming up with some good ideas here. All right. What about our CFO? What does our CFO have to say?
So basically the stance of Miles, and I also think Gus, after just reading the little paragraph afterwards, he's kind of agreeing with Miles that what is the company if we all don't succeed? You know, it talked about how when the price of oil goes up, it affects their products and it affects their entire company. So, what is this company without the scientists and also the lonely packaging people? So I think the CFO wants, he wants this plan to be that you are paid based on the company as a whole, or based on another department that you work with, because it says that less than 4% of an employee's pay is tied to overall company performances, whereas upper management, it's 60% of their pay is tied to how the company overall performs. So it also talks about how the benefit of everyone getting paid, is that it encourages everyone in the company to excel. And I can see how that might step on people's toes. Stop it.
Okay, so based on that, what if we did a company-wide percentage based on pay instead of doing each department percentage? Does that make sense? So everybody has their base pay. Everybody's happy with their base pay. So now we say, okay, for all of the work that you do, you get 25% more or 15% more. I mean, you can't make it 10. Everybody always gives a 10% discount at their works, and it doesn't seem to be, for me, it was never motivational. Okay, when I worked at Target, I got 15. That was much better than 10% at Joann's. So what if based on that, the CFO wants to go company-wide to make them tie into each other and cooperate with each other, the base pay is different, but the compensation pay on top of that, all the extra bonus stuff is all the same rate throughout the company.
Right, and since R&D has higher salaries, their 15% will be much higher than a factory worker's 15%, but it'll be relative.
Yes.
So that'll make sense.
Oh.
Good idea.
But as Ruth, I'm just gonna fight for her again and her company and say, then why do I come in on the weekends to make sure that these products can go out on time? And we worked really, really hard for this whole year, whereas I see the guy in R&D and he goes home every Friday at noon, and we're here on Friday and Saturday. So do we get compensated extra for that?
That's a good question. That's the purpose of this thing.
Well, but wouldn't
why-
that pay be based on the time that you've already put in?
I don't think for working the weekends, because I'm already working 40 hours a week. And now I'm working an extra 8 hours on Saturday to get it done and to get things shipped out faster so that our customers are happy.
That was for the past year, right? Or 2 years? Year? That she's been doing this?
Said it was the past year.
That she's just upset that she hasn't seen compensation for the already improved aspect of her side of the business.
Okay,
Right.
but here's the other question. That's where overtime comes into play. I mean, you're already getting time and a half for all those extra hours, according to base pay laws. So, you know, you're getting an extra 25% on top of that. Would that not be enough to satisfy everybody? I mean, yes, you're working more hours than the scientists are, but, you know, you're still being tied into everybody in the group with the factory compensation at 25%, but you're also making that overtime pay. And I know this will probably end up costing the company more in the long run, but you have to pay. I mean, there are laws set up that you have to pay overtime. You can only work 40 hours a week at your base pay, and then after that, it has to be overtime pay.
Well,
I
so
understand.
maybe
ahead.
my section, maybe we just won't work on Saturdays. Since we're already doing really good, we'll take our Saturdays off and see how the company does as a whole. If we still get the packaging out on time and it goes faster, we can take that out and maybe it'll make the employees happier.
I think also with the company, like, you know, we're all getting a same based on how the company does. So maybe another department can come in and help you, you know, not on the weekends, but during the weekdays, they could step up and be like, oh, okay, well, we finished kind of early. Let's go and help someone else because their pay or their, you know, extra on top of their base pay based on how well the packing department does and how well the other department does. So I think that's going to promote teamwork, and it's going to, you know, not make Ruth and her team come in on Saturdays anymore. If we really communicate that to the company, I think.
Well, I think too that could work in every department, not just the shipping department. You know, if one department is lacking, not slacking, but lacking in the ability to push it faster, you know, because that's part of your bottlenecks and things like that happen in the processing. You find those bottlenecks. Well, if everybody in the company is helping to adjust and get that bottleneck fixed, then things move faster for everybody else, and everybody else can go back to their positions and get it done. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Problem solved. No.
Yeah.
Thanks,
I wish
guys.
it.
Yeah.
Good ideas here. There's just some questions in here that it says to use throughout the discussion here. It says, which is better, guaranteed pay that is same for all employees based on market rate and or seniority, or incentive pay that is linked to performance? And I think we came up with a combination of both, having a base pay that is linked to market rates seniority education level. I mean, R&D is going to have a higher base pay because they're high. I mean, it's higher education, and when they come up with something new, it's going to benefit the company loads more new customers, new technology, and then having that based on performance, that little percentage that'll encourage people to work, or to encourage them, to motivate them to continue to work hard. Another question is, if you use incentive pay system, how much pay should be based on performance and how much should be guaranteed? I guess that was the percentages that we talked about, so we did that. If you use an incentive pay system, is it better to tie pay to individual performance, team performance, company performance, or a combination of the three?
Okay, I'm just going back to last week's motivation thing. We know that pay doesn't motivate people. So based on that fact, there's got to be some other way to motivate them to actually get the performance pay. You know, you have to make them feel like their work is really valuable, and that's, I think, part of Ruth's, not necessarily Ruth's, but who's the other one? No, I think it is Ruth. I think it's the fact that, you know, she works extremely hard. She's working over 40 hours a week, and she's just not motivated to do any more because she feels like it's unfair, it's not right, and I really think that basing it on that aspect, performance pay is just really one of those things that doesn't motivate people. So how do we get that aspect into it as well? Does that make sense? I mean, I think there was somebody else in the group that mentioned that too. You know.
Oh, I don't know if compensation doesn't motivate. I would say compensation wouldn't really motivate if it was on base pay. If I gave someone a raise on their base pay, they're going to be like, oh, I'm making this now anyway, it doesn't matter what I do. But if compensation is based on performance, or like, you know, more quantity, that should motivate someone to do more. Like, oh, I want to get paid more. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to work faster. I'm going to do my best so I can produce more and ultimately make more. As opposed to someone that gets a raise on their base pay, they're going to be like, oh, I'm making that anyway. I'm not really motivated. I think that's what they mean by, because pay would definitely motivate me in a compensation by performance aspect. I'm sure it would motivate you guys too to get some bonuses for working harder, but I don't know how else we could motivate besides, because this whole week is based on compensation. But
okay, so just another insight. I worked for Viking, and their compensation was not only our base pay, but we also made a percentage of the machine sales that we did. So for every sewing machine we sold, we got a percentage of that. And so that really pushed us to make sure that we were selling, you know, 2, 3, 4 machines a week. So you're right, there is that motivation beyond that. But I just wanted to throw in the kink of, okay, you know, we know that money isn't the only motivator.
Right. Okay, great.
I was going to say too that we talked, you know, a little bit about the different 50 things with 50 employees, how employee compensation works. If we, in the initial hiring, stress profit sharing and allow them to purchase some of the stock, then, you know, and other educational things, paying for those things, that will get them to stay at the company. And the incentives are what's going to get them to work harder. But everybody gets tired and burnt out. And so it's hard to work 100% all the time. So if we make their base salary with the addition of profit sharing and company stock enticing, then that will, you know, get them to stay and maybe make them work harder. I don't know.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's possibly like 401k and matching that. That'll encourage them to stay. I'm with a company right now called BioLife, and they allow 401k. They'll match a certain percentage of what you put in, but you're only guaranteed what you what they will give you if you stay with the company for 5 years. So maybe something like that will motivate people to stay longer, and then you can have a base pay that's just a little bit lower, because then they'll say, oh, I want that match, so I'll stay even though I could get paid more at this other company, but they don't have a 401k match kind of thing. So that could be a possibility as well. I only have a little, like 13 minutes left, but I thought we had some good ideas. It says now to get out of character, so release yourselves from your character there, and then let everyone relax, and then ask each group member to explain what they think is the best approach to compensation at Top Cam. I think that we've been using our own personal views as well. So if anyone has any more views that they'd like to share that was that wasn't their character, I guess, we'll share it right now if you'd like.
I know that we're supposed to be out of character, but I still agree that everybody should be compensated based on their own individual performance, although I don't know how you can separate that, not individual, but maybe as your team, your department, and I don't know how to separate that to make it fair. And so, I don't know. I do think they had said that they should run a model, like a test program, to say, okay, well, this is how much we did this month. If we were to do it, the incentives, then this is how much you would be getting paid extra. And then maybe they can divide it up somehow that way. They can say, okay, this is how much R&D got, this is how much the packaging would get, and then they can go from there on how to divide up the percentages, or if they even wanted to divide them up. But I think that doing a trial run may be beneficial to helping them figure out how much everyone will get.
Great. Anyone else?
I think it's going to take some patience for everybody too. You've got people who've been with the company for a while, and it's just going to be a major adjustment. It doesn't matter what you do, not everybody's going to be happy.
Yeah, one of the other characters talked about having a 15% reduction in the jobs at the place. So he's like, just weed out those people that aren't on board with your reform or your idea of reform, and then once those people are gone, start a whole new payment system, compensation plan.
Yeah.
I think also the person from Motorola, the other people that I think read the case and they gave their opinions on it. The girl from Motorola, she said that a couple employees from a department actually came up with their own payment system, and they thought, okay, this is how we want to be paid based on what we do, and she brought it to their team brought it to the CEO, and their plan actually got approved. So maybe something like that, to help Ruth get her, to feel like they're valued for the work that they do. Maybe part of the trial run could be like, okay, well, what do you guys think your base pay should be? And then based on the company's overall performance, that's how they get more compensation for that. But I think getting the employees involved and making sure that they feel like, okay, your 2 cents have been counted for, that's going to help get more people on board.
See, and I think I completely agree with that. The issue here, I think, that everybody is having is the fact that they have no say. Yeah, they have a team together to discuss this, but they're not really discussing it because the CEO is saying, well, I'm here to hear your input, but in the end it's going to be me and all me that's going to come up with this. Mm-hmm. So I think giving them the voice would help them feel like they have a part of it. You know, they have a say in what's going to happen to their pay.
Yeah, in capital budgeting, there's what's called the top-down approach and the bottom-up approach. And you guys are touching on the bottom-up approach. That's at individual department level, coming up with a budget, I guess. In this case, it would be salaries and wages. And then going from there to higher up and say, hey, look, this is what we want. This is what it's going to cost to pay our employees to perform these job functions. This is what they would like to receive compensation-wise. And then get the approval from higher up. Say, okay, we can do this, or we can do 10% less. Is that okay? And they'll take that to their employees, and then it's that bottom-up approach that makes the employees feel valued, and it makes them feel more, I guess, in control of their own compensation, and they feel better about it in a sense. So I like that. That's great. All right, so the last thing is ask each team member what is the most important thing they learned from this case. And then to rate the overall quality of the discussion, and then what the discussion leader did that they liked, and what we could do better next time. So, anyone like to share?
To speak up, regardless of whether you are just a mixer on the packaging team and not, like a college-educated person, that it's important to have your opinion and to share it because, like you said, the bottom-up thing, it can be heard, and sometimes it may be better to work together as a whole component rather than just a team. So, I don't know. I think you did a great job, Bryce.
Thanks. It was a fun one to do. Cool.
I agree with Becky. I think the biggest thing that I took out of this case was that no matter what you do, it's a difficult decision. But definitely including people in the team with that decision is better than just trying to make it one person's assignment.
Right. I learned the importance of business and having numbers on your team delegate what you can afford for compensation in order to stay profitable. Jordan, let's finish with you.
Oh, I was just going to say basically the same thing, that everyone's going to have their own opinions. It's going to take a strong leader who's wanting to make sure that their company, I think, something that I learned about, the company started out at a bad place, and then the CEO got it back on, and it was a really good company. So it's going to take a really good leader to make sure that company stays where they want to be, and that they listen to all their employees, and that, to throw the timeline out the window, because this is something that's not going to be fixed. Just, within a month I'll get back to you, and we'll have it all ready to go. It's going to take a lot more than that.
Do we want to talk about doohickeys real quick?
Yeah.
What about that?
I put that the main problem could be their lack of, obviously, compensation incentives. They don't have a 401k matching, pension, stock participation, or any variable incentive pay plans.
Right.
Yep. I think that is the issue here this week. I don't think there's anything else beyond that.
Right.
So the solution could be to come up with a 401k.
Come up with a benefits package type. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't even think.
Go
ahead.
At one problem.
You cut out, Bryce. I didn't hear you.
Oh, I said, how can we come up with 4 solutions for that one problem?
I said that we could pay for any educational classes if they wanted to move up in the company.
Okay.
Definitely the 401k, education, medical benefits. Obviously, that's a law now. Everybody has to have that if they're full-time employees.
I know we had talked about at one point, like maybe letting them off early on Fridays, like half day Friday every other week or something,
Okay.
which may, give them, it's not a compensation incentive for them per se, but they're still working their 40 hours a week,
Right.
and the company still, they don't have to pay the power to get the machines going while they're gone, but they still got their money for the 40 hours.
Okay. Great.
Just something in compensation too that worked for like Google is to give those employees a certain amount of time every week to work on their own ideas that the company can use. So that might be a solution. They're compensated for their idea on a percentage. You could do that, I guess.
That's a good idea.
So we're going to meet next Monday then at 10, right?
Next Monday at 10 sounds good to me.
Okay. I think it's my turn to leave.
Sounds good.
Okie dokie.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
Have a good one.
Thanks.
Okay, bye.